Vasu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dire Nashtaprayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhakta Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, today we're starting new chapter, chapter 10. The Lord's return to Jagannath Puri. Text 1. Tam vande gaura jaladam swasya yo darshanamrita viched vichedava graha milana bhakta shasyani ajivaya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is compared to a cloud that pours water on fields of grain, which are like devotees suffering due to shortage of rain. Separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like a drought, but when the Lord returns, his presence is like a nectarian rain that falls on all the grains and saves them from perishing. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Nityananda Prabhu, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Purvayabhe Mahaprabhu Chalila Dakshine Pratap Rudra Raja Tabe Bolaila Sarvabhaumi. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed for South India, King Pratap Rudra called Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya to his palace. So King Pratap Rudra is the king of Puri. So he called for Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. Vasite asan dila kari namaskare Mahaprabhu varta tabe puchila tahare. When Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya met with the king offered him a seat with all respects and inquired about news of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shunila tomar ghare ek mahashay, goda haite aila tehu mahakripamay. The king said to the Bhattacharya, I have heard that a great personality has come from Bengal and is staying at your home. I've also heard that he is very, very merciful. तुम्हारे बहु कृपा कैला कहे सर्व जाना कृपा करी करा मोरे ताहार darshan. I've also heard that this great personality has shown you great favor. At any rate, this is what I hear from many different people. Now, being merciful upon me, you should do me the favor of arranging an interview. भट कहे ये सुनीला सब सत्य है तार दर्शन तोमार घट न है. The Bhattacharya replied, all that you have heard is true, but as far as an interview is concerned, it is very difficult to arrange. विरक्त सन्यासी ते हो रहे निर्जने स्वप्ने न करेन ते हो राजदर्शन. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the renounced order and is very much detached from worldly affairs. He stays in solitary places and even in dreams he does not grant interviews to a king. Tathapi prakaritoma karaitema darshan samprati karila teho dakhina gama. Still, I would have tried to arrange your interview, but he has recently left to South India. Raja kahe Jagannath chhadi ke na gela, bhat kahe mahan tera ye kalila. The king asked, why has he left Jagannath Puri? The Bhattacharya replied, such are the pastimes of a great personality. तीर्थ पवित्र करे तीर्थ ब्राह्मण सही चले निस्तारे संसारी का जन. Great saints go to holy places of pilgrimage in order to purify them. For that reason, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is visiting many tirthas and delivering many, many conditioned souls. Bhavat Vida Bhagavata Tirthi Bhurta Swayam Vibho. Tirthi kurvanti tirthan swantastem gadavata. Saints of your caliber are themselves places of pilgrimage. Because of their purity, they are constant companions of the Lord, and therefore they can purify even the places of pilgrimage. This verse spoken by Maharaj Yudhishthira to Vidura in Srimad Bhagavatam is also quoted in the Adi Lila. वैष्णवेर एहि एक स्वभाव निश्चल तेहो जीवन नाहि नाना स्वतंत्र ईश्वर. A Vaishnav travels to places of pilgrimage to purify them and reclaim fallen, conditioned souls. This is one of the duties of a Vaishnav. Actually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not a living entity, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Consequently, he is fully independent controller. Yet, in his position as a devotee, he carries out the activities of a devotee. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that because there are many permanent residents in holy places who do not precisely follow the rules and regulations governing living in a sacred place, exalted devotees have to go to these places to reclaim such persons. This is the business of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is unhappy to see others materially enmeshed or entangled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught these activities of a Vaishnava, although he is a worshipable deity of all Vaishnavas, the complete and independent Supreme Personality of God. He is Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukta, completely uncontaminated and eternally liberated. He is Sanatan, for he has no beginning or end. So the only reason he traveled to all those places is to reclaim people who are there in the holy places, but not quite following the rules and regulations. Raja kahe tare tumi yaite kene deen, paye padi yatna kari kene na rakhi. Upon hearing this, the king replied, "Why did you allow him to leave? Why didn't you fall at his lotus feet and keep him here?" Bhattacharya kahete ho swayam Ishwar Swatantra, Saksha Shri Krishna te ho nahe paratantra. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself and is completely independent. Being Lord Krishna Himself, he is not dependent on anyone. Tathapi rakhite tare bahu yatna kahi, Ishwarera Swatantra Ichha rakhite nari. Still I endeavored very hard to keep him here, but because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and completely independent, I was not successful. Raja kahe bhatt tumi vigya shirumani, tumi tare Krishna kaha tate satyamani. The king said, Bhattacharya, you are the most learned and experienced person I know. Therefore, when you address Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Lord Krishna, I accept this as a truth. So this is the way to advance in spiritual science. One must accept the words of an acharya, a bona fide spiritual master, to clear the path for spiritual advancement. This is a secret of success. However, one's guide must be a spiritual master who is actually an unalloyed devotee, strictly following the instructions of the previous acharya without deviation. Whatever the spiritual master says must be accepted by the disciple. Only then is success certain. This is the Vedic system. So one has to be very careful in accepting a spiritual master. Prabhupada says, one must be a spiritual master who is actually an unalloyed devotee, strictly following the instructions of the previous acharya without deviation. So previous acharya means he should be in parampara, should not have been deviated, and who's an unalloyed devotee and who's also engaging his followers in the service of Krishna. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a Brahman and a realized soul whereas Prataprudra was a Kshatriya. Kshatriya kings used to obey very faithfully the orders of learned Brahmins and saintly persons, and in this way they would rule their country. Similarly, Vaishyas used to follow the king's orders, and Shudras used to serve the three higher castes. In this way, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras used to live cooperatively, performing their respective duties. Consequently, society was peaceful, and people were able to discharge the duties of Krishna consciousness. Thus, they were happy in this life and able to return home back to Godhead. So this was how Varnashram system was established. But then everybody had to follow their set of duties properly. Punarapi ihantar haile agamana ekbar dekhi kari safala nayan. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returns, I wish to see him just once in order to make my eyes perfect. भट्टाचार्य कहते हूँ आसी बे अल्प काले रहिते तारे का स्थान चाहिए विराले. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, His Holiness Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will return very soon. I wish to have a nice place ready for him, a place solitary and peaceful. ठाकुरेर निकट आर हईबे निर्जाने हे मत निर्णय करी देहा एक स्थाने. Lord Chaitanya's residence should be very secluded and also near the temple of Jagannath. Please consider this proposal and give me a nice place for him. Raja kahe aiche kashi mishrer bhavan, Thakurer nikataye parama nirjan. The king replied, Kashi Mishra's house is exactly what you require. It is near the temple and is a very secluded, calm and quiet. So that is a place which is now known as Gambhira. By Mahaprabhu's mercy, we had been able to go there and saw that small room where Mahaprabhu stayed for 12 complete years. But that was the house where he stayed when he was in Jagannath Puri. Eta kahi raja rahe utkanthita haya, Bhattacharya Kashi Mishra kahila asiya. After saying this, the king became very anxious for the Lord to return. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then went to Kashi Mishra to convey the king's desires. Kashi Mishra kahe ami bada bhagyavan, mor grihe prabhu pade rahabe avasthanam. When Kashi Mishra heard the proposal, he said, I am very fortunate that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord of all Prabhus, will stay at my home. So in this verse, the word Prabhupada, referring to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is significant. Regarding this, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada comments, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and all his servants address him as Prabhupada. This means that there are many Prabhus taking shelter under his lotus feet. So that is the real meaning of the word Prabhupada. Many Prabhus taking shelter under his lotus feet. The pure Vaishnava is addressed as Prabhu, and this address is an etiquette observed between Vaishnavas. When many Prabhus remain under the shelter of the lotus feet of another Prabhu, the address Prabhupada is given. Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Advaita Prabhu are also addressed as Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Advaita Prabhu, and Sri Nityananda Prabhu are all Vishnu Tattva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. Therefore, all living entities are under their lotus feet. Lord Vishnu is the eternal Lord of everyone, and the representative of Lord Vishnu is the Lord's confidential servant. Such a person acts as a spiritual master for neophyte Vaishnavas. Therefore, the spiritual master is as respectable as Sri Krishna Chaitanya or Lord Vishnu himself. For this reason, the spiritual master is addressed as Om Vishnupad or Prabhupada. The Acharya, the spiritual master, is generally respected by others as Shripad, and the initiated Vaishnavas are addressed as Prabhu. Prabhu, Prabhupada, Vishnupad are described in revealed scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Chaitanya Bhagavat. In this regard, these scriptures present evidence accepted by unalloyed devotees. So Prabhupada, actually this confusion started when Prabhupada's disciples started calling him Prabhupada. Earlier they used to call him Swamiji. when they heard about Prabhupada, the title, so they called him Prabhupada. But Prabhupada's god brothers, they objected. They said, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was called Prabhupada. So you're not supposed to take this title. So Prabhupada said, this is the meaning of the title. When many devotees take shelter at the lotus feet of somebody, then he is entitled to be called Prabhupada. So then that is when everybody started calling him Prabhupada. Or before that it was only Swamiji. But this is how Prabhupada is clearing this issue up. Of course, now ISKCON has reserved this title Prabhupada just for Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And nobody else will be called Prabhupada in ISKCON, at least in ISKCON. The Prakrit Sahajiyas are not even worthy of being called Vaishnavas. They think that only caste Goswamis should be called Prabhupada. Such ignorant Sahajiyas call themselves Vaishnav Das and Das, which means the servant of the Vaishnavas. However, they are opposed to addressing a pure Vaishnava as Prabhupada. In other words, they are envious of a bona fide spiritual master who is addressed as Prabhupada. And they commit offenses by considering a bona fide spiritual master an ordinary human being or a member of a certain caste. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes such Sahajiyas as most unfortunate. Because of their misconceptions, they fall into a hellish condition. So yes, Sahajiyas, they have their own way of thinking. They're just sentimentalists. And so they don't know what actually is Prabhupada and who's bona fide and who's not. And this is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, they will fall into a hellish condition. Ehi mata purushottam vasiyata jan, Prabhu ke milite sabar utkantita man. Thus all the residents of Jagannath Puri, which is also known as Purushottam, became anxious to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again. Sarva loker utkantha jabe atyanta badila, Mahaprabhu dakshinam aite tabai aila. When all the residents of Jagannath Puri became extremely anxious to meet the Lord again, he returned from South India. Shuniya Anandita Haila Sabakar Mana Save Asi Sarvabhume Kaila Nivedan. Hearing of the Lord's return, everyone became very happy and they all went to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and spoke to him as follows. Prabhura Sahita Ama Sabar Karah Milana Tomar Prasade Pae Prabhura Charan. Please arrange our meeting with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's only by your mercy that we can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Bhattacharya kahe kali kashi mishera ghare, Prabhu yagin taha miliba sabare. The Bhattacharya replied to the people, tomorrow the Lord will be at the house of Kashi Mishra. I shall arrange for you all to meet him. Aradina Mahaprabhu Bhattacharya Sanghe Jagannatha Darshan Kaila Maharange. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived and went with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya with great enthusiasm to see the temple of Lord Jagannath. Mahaprasad Diyataha Milila Sevagana Mahaprabhu Sabakare Kaile Alingana. All the servants of Lord Jagannath delivered remnants of the Lord's food to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In return, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced them all. Darshan kari Mahaprabhu chalila bahire, bhattacharya anila tare, Kashi Mishra ghare. After seeing Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left the temple. The bhattacharya then took him to the house of Kashi Mishra. Kashi Mishra asi padila prabhur charane, griha sahit atma tare kaila nivedane. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at his house, Kashi Mishra immediately fell down at his lotus feet and surrendered himself and all his possessions. Prabhu Chatur Bhuja Murti, Tare Dekhaila, Atma Sat Kari Tare Alingana Kaila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then showed Kashi Mishra his four-armed form. Then accepting him for his service, the Lord embraced him. Tabbe Mahaprabhu tam Vasila asane, Chaudi ke Vasila Nityananda Adi Bhakta Gane. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next sat down at the place prepared for him, and all the devotees, headed by Lord Nityananda Prabhu, surrounded him. Sukhi haila dekhi Prabhu vasara samsthana, Jai vasai hai Prabhu sarva samadhana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see his residential quarters, in which all his necessities were taken care of. Sarvbhaum kahe Prabhu yogya tomar vasa, tumi angikar kara Kashi Mishra asha. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya said, this place is just befitting you. Please accept it. It is the hope of Kashi Mishra that you do. Please accept, man. You do accept it. Prabhu ke yei deha tomara sabakar, toma sabakara, yei tumi kaha sei samata amara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my body belongs to all of you. Therefore, I agree to whatever you say. Tabe Sarvabhauma Prabhu Dakshin Parshve Vasi, Milai Tela Gila Sab Purushottama Vasi. After this, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, sitting at the right hand of the Lord, began to introduce all the inhabitants of Purushottam, Jagannath Puri. So I guess we can stop and see all the members or all the inhabitants that he introduced to Mahaprabhu tomorrow. So we'll stop here, see anybody has any questions or comments.
प्रभु जी हमारा पूरा ट्रिप रिवाइव हो जाएगा इस चैप्टर में, मुझे लग रहा है.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. All the places that we went to, they're coming back to the mind now.
I know. After 1 month. Good.
Yeah. Yep.
Good. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhavya. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna.